Okay, so I thought today we could talk about something that I never have, and maybe you can help me with it. No, just kidding, but only a little bit. It's like confidence in leadership, because I know there's so many of us who are leading, and even if we don't have a title of leading, we're all leading in some capacity. And so I just want to talk a little bit about what that looks like. How do you get that? If you can help me, that'd be awesome. Um, I've got some thoughts, but yeah, I feel like I typically am lacking confidence in leadership. So, but yeah, so I just want to talk about that. What are your first initial thoughts?
Yeah, well, first, I don't think you're alone in that. And I would definitely say that I go back and forth with it. Like some days I'm really confident, and then some days I'm like, no. And
Yeah,
I think that it might be directly tied to how I'm leading myself.
yeah,
Um, and like, I guess my self disciplines. And if I'm lacking in those, then I don't feel qualified to lead someone else or like confident enough to lead someone else. If I don't know. I guess for me, like one of the big things is like working out and eating right, just because I know that keep those two things and drinking enough water are the three things that like keep me, I don't know, mentally strong.
yeah, yeah,
So if I'm not doing those things, I'm like, oh, I don't know, like I just feel more chaotic.
yeah,
Um, I think those are my initial thoughts. I think for me, it hinges a lot on how I'm leading myself.
yeah. I think that's really good. I agree. Like, I feel like I'm not qualified to lead someone else if I can't lead myself.
Yeah.
Uh, and I've had to learn to do that a bit more, just in the last few years, of just like leading myself well. But I honestly, I don't think I'm ever confident in my abilities to lead. I don't, but that's okay. Like, I mean, obviously you want to be skilled and you want to have all of that. I'm not saying that, but like, I'm not typically confident in my abilities to lead, but I am confident in God's ability to use me and lead through me. And so, but sometimes I forget that. And that's when I stop leading myself well. And it's usually in conjunction with leading myself well, of my quiet time with Jesus and spending time with him. And like, I'm always reminded of Moses. Like, I literally, me and Moses are going to have a long conversation on the other side of eternity, I'm sure, because I constantly talk and complain about Moses and how much he like irritates me so bad, because he's like the most insecure leader besides Saul. Uh, like, I mean, God literally had to be like, shut up. Like, shut up, Moses. This is not about you. This isn't about your skills or your talent or your gifts. This is about me, and I'm using you, and I could use a rock if I wanted to. And then that's how, like, he irritates me so bad, because I'm just like, shut up, man. Like, shut up. Like, but I think it irritates me because I'm so much like that. Like, I'm always like, yeah, I think you got it wrong, God. Like, I'm pretty sure you picked the wrong person and your choice is subpar. Um, your standards are really low, man. So, so like, I have this like back and forth with Moses, because I don't want to be Moses, but that's typically who I am. So I have to remind myself that it's not really about my confidence in my abilities. It's my confidence in God being able to use even me.
Yeah.
Yeah, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense. That's kind of what I wrote down, is like from what you were saying, like, so you're saying like confidence in the Lord is what gives you confidence to lead.
Yeah.
And it almost has very little to do with confidence in yourself. And you're drawing from the Lord's strength, which, I mean, look.
I'm drawing everything from the
I always tell, I'm like, anytime, I give any encouragement to anyone, I'm like, okay, if that was terrible, that was from me. But if you
yeah.
learned anything from it, that was from the Lord.
Yep. Yep.
If that was encouraging, that was not for me. I'm sorry. But that was from the Lord. And I think that's like, I guess when I think of confidence in leadership, I wish more people would even just fake it till you make it. Like, because I'm just so tired of not being confident in myself. You know, like I'm kind of at this point where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is exhausting. What if I just tried to be confident and let's just see what happens?
And what like frustrates me sometimes, even like with myself or with like those around, it's just I think a lack of confidence in your abilities is sometimes an excuse to just sit and do nothing. And
Mm,
I mean, I think like you and I are both like doers. Like if I have an idea, I'll just be like, all right, God, if this is for, like, I'm going full force into this. If this
yeah,
is from you, awesome. If it's not, shut the door. Just shut it so that I don't continue. And that's typically what happens is, if it doesn't work out, well, I'm like, all right, let's do something else. But I've never been qualified for anything that I have done or led in any capacity. Um, but but are you willing to say yes? I think
yeah,
that's where like that's the bigger issue. Is like if you're willing to put your yes on the table, he will lead through you if you allow him. But it's oftentimes we think, well, like I'm sure he can do it, but not through me, so I'm just going to say no. And that's what bothers me the most. But I always think of in Acts 4:13, where Peter and somebody else, I never can remember who it was, John, I don't know. Somebody's with Peter, and they go like
yeah.
they go before like these like leaders, and what's hilarious, and this is my prayer. This is literally my prayer all the time. It's like they said that they were astonished at their boldness, and
Mm,
that they could tell that they were uneducated common men. And I'm like, yep, like everyone can tell when I open my mouth that I'm like not a theologian or schooled in this manner. Like, I don't care if they can tell I'm uneducated. The last part of that verse is that they could tell that they had been with Jesus.
yeah.
And that's like, if people can tell I've been with Jesus, I'm
Yeah.
confident to lead. Like, yeah,
That's so good. That is so real. I think we get caught up in, I guess, like our humanness. And if people will be able to tell that we're not qualified, or if people will be able to tell that we're not the
yeah,
most, educated, don't have my PhD. Um, but I can't deny what the Lord has taught me and what the Lord has promised me in this life. And even if I, ignore it or like shy away from it, that doesn't mean the promise doesn't still stand.
yeah,
Like his promises are forever and unwavering. Um, so I guess resting in that confidence that even, I guess, like clinging to the mercies are new every morning, and no matter what is going on, you still have an anointing or a calling or a promise that you can kind of cling
yeah.
um, to anchor that confidence in.
Yeah, and honestly, if they can tell that I'm unqualified, great. Because you know who gets the glory if I seem qualified? Gabby. But it's like his strength is made perfect in my weakness. And unfortunately, that like I'm like, seriously, man, like that means that like everyone's gonna see that I'm weak and I'm flawed and I'm, unqualified and all this stuff. But that's okay because if I had it all together, then God doesn't get the glory for that.
Yeah.
I would. And so, and that's really not that's not where I want to be. I mean, yeah, we want to be professional. We want to be excellent at what we do. I'm not saying like don't school yourself, don't learn anything so that you can be like
Yeah.
all for the glory of God. I'm not saying that, but be okay, if you don't feel like you're totally qualified to be leading something, be okay to do it anyways if that's what God's asked you to do,
Hmm.
because then he's going to show up and he's going to show off and he's going to lead through you. The moment that I start to lead in my own self is the moment that everything goes wrong. But, anyways, yeah, that's my thoughts.
I like it. Repeat what you just said about the moment because it froze and I'll be able to edit that out.
As the moment that I start to lead in and of like through my own self and my own strength is the moment that everything goes wrong.
Yes.
That I definitely do not want that.
Yep. And that's whenever anxiety kind of comes, and that's where all the lies start to creep in.
But that goes back to leading yourself well, like what you had
Yep.
said before. And if we're leading ourselves well, if we're taking care of ourselves spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally, we'll be able to pour that out.
100%. I agree.
Any other thoughts on?
I feel like you just nailed it. I really don't. I'm like, dang, that was just so good. I don't think I have any other I think you did. I think you nailed it. I do.